He wants to compare Packwood with the President of the United States. What did Packwood do? What did Packwood do? See, that guy was a fake. Guys like Mike, this fellow was just on the line. They probably are more annoying than some of those Sicolas because he pretended he was something he wasn't. If he were the independent he says he is, who votes mostly Republican, he wouldn't have attacked me. He would have said, well, why don't you go after the Republicans? Okay, well, he has to, just think, that poor schmuck has to listen to the Bob Grant show. Hey, if you're listening out there. Okay. I talk about immature.
People are offended by statements that you make on the air against, for example, Bill Clinton. Rather than writing the front office or boycotting the sponsors or complaining to the FCC, your response has always been, if you don't like what you hear, just turn the dial and listen to somebody else, correct?
No, I don't say listen to somebody else. I say, if it's bothering you, turn the radio off.
Okay, well, why doesn't that same logic apply to Bill Clinton? In other words, if you don't like the guy, you simply vote him out of office next election. And I think that bashing Clinton day after day after day is the equivalent of writing the front office or complaining to the FCC or boycotting the sponsors.
I don't agree with that at all. I mean, you're trying to compare a guy doing a radio program with a guy who's the President of the United States. It's idiotic.
I'm not comparing the two people. I'm comparing the logic of,
well,
on the one hand,
you're not presenting any logic. You're not presenting any logic whatsoever. I'm surprised at you. Usually you make sense, Marty, but today you're not making any sense at all.
Well, I mean,
you're just not making any sense. It's idiotic to even continue this discussion.
Well, don't
get real, for heaven's sake. How stupid! You bet I'm bashing Bill Clinton. I'll bash him until he leaves office. And if you don't like it, Marty, you know what you could do with your dumb South Jersey accent. On. It's not on. It's on. John, you're on WABC. Hello.
Yeah, Ronald Reagan is still being knocked 5 years after he's out of the presidency, or 6 years now. What shocks me are the people who are shocked that there's only 13% that believe that O.J. Simpson is not guilty. I don't know why we're afraid to say it. It is, as I have been saying all along for years and have been chastised and vilified for saying, that most, notice I said most, not all, but most blacks in America are anti-white, anti-American, and anti-Semitic. I don't know why we can't face this fact. The figures come out more and more to show this.
I disagree with you when you say most.
Well, I have the facts.
You have the facts?
Yeah.
You mean they took a poll and the question was, do you hate whites? Do you hate America? I mean, John,
they've taken a number of polls. The Elmer Roper poll taken in 1993, 65% of blacks admitted they were anti-Semitic. In mid-February of 1994, a poll taken by blacks, the National Black Politics Study, and reported in the New York Post on February 18, 1994 by Juan Williams. 86% of blacks polled said they admired anti-American, white-hating Jesse Jackson. 62% of blacks polled said they believed Louis Farrakhan was a positive force. Only 28% deemed him to be dangerous. 55% of blacks favor separatism. In Lou Harris's poll conducted in February of 1994, 2/3 of minorities think whites are insensitive and bigoted. And that
wait a minute. Let's stop right there. What percentage? What percentage?
2/3 of minorities that were polled.
Well, maybe they're right. Maybe whites are insensitive and bigoted. I mean, did that ever occur to you that maybe that's true?
They are, as far as I'm concerned. It's whites that have saved the necks of blacks in this country. You always hear white, in fact, the one that's coming on after you is a big supporter of blacks and hates white people, her own people. Everywhere you look, whites are pandering to blacks all over this country. Three white presidents in a row catered to blacks. You had Ronald Reagan sign the Martin Luther King holiday when he really didn't want to. You had George Bush sign that quota bill that we all knew was a quota bill, but he pretended wasn't. You had Bill Clinton change his entire Haitian policy based on the pressures from the Congressional Black Caucus. The results of a poll in April 11, 1994 revealed that 49% of blacks polled said they called the black rage was a legitimate reason to commit a crime. I mean, time after time in this country, you have blacks pandering. Look what happened when
blacks pandering. I thought you said whites were pandering.
Well, that's what I'm saying. The whole country's pandering to them. Hey, when Al Sharpton tried to run for the Senate here in New York, Bob, did Charles Schumer and the rest of those liberals complain and get in buses and ride up to Albany and try and force our government in Albany to keep him from running for the Senate? But when David Duke wanted to run for governor in Louisiana, you had all these white liberals up here running down south to try and influence the local elections 1,000 miles away because they couldn't stand to have somebody who's thought of to be a white racist in office.
Well, if you know anything about David Duke's background, I think you could understand why people were so upset with the prospect of David Duke becoming governor of the state of Louisiana was an abomination.
We're talking about the double standard here. That's what we're talking about. There is a double standard. There is this country. What do you think November 8th was all about? Or part of it, at least anyway. You have a whole country pandering to 12% of the population. How many polls do we need?
John,
yes, I know, Bob. Even Carl is your buddy now. You
wait a minute, John. What? You know, you are so full of anger.
Oh, no, I'm full of anger. Bob Grant, the man who got everybody riled up for 20 years, tells me that I'm full of anger. But when we react to what you pointed out, that was the truth for years, and all of a sudden now, because 30 people...
John, you know what I found out about you? As long as...
Yeah, that's it. Now attack me personally because I bring out the facts, right, Bob? You're very good at attacking white callers lately. I noticed that. But when it comes to blacks, you treat people like Carl with...
I'm not attacking you because you're white. I'm not even attacking you. I'm just pointing something out, John. I've noticed, John, that if I have any disagreement, even if it's a minor disagreement with you, any question I want to ask, you immediately become very angry with me, like I'm just supposed to sit here and let you talk and not say a word and wait until you're all finished, then you say thank you, and that's the end of that. As long as I do that, I'm fine, I'm okay. But the minute I want to have a little dialogue with you, I'm not okay. I don't understand that, John, and you turn on me so fast.
No, Bob,
it doesn't take much to have you turn on me, John, so get off the phone. Crying out loud. I don't know, some people, if you are very patient with them, they take advantage of you. Ah, dear me. Okay, on WABC, hello.
Mr. Bob Grant, God bless you. I said, thanks a million how you help all the people of this country. You come out with the facts. And Tony Fico said you're the king of talk radio. And I believe that. And all the guys from the club always listen to you all the time. And I was there the other night for 5 hours, and they think you're the finest gentleman going.
What club is that?
The Republican, the Frank Kenner Republican Club in Astoria by St. Joseph's Church. They're all for you 100%, Mr. Grant.
Well, if it's close to a church, it can't be too bad.
Thanks, Mr. Bob. Could I say that, could I speak about that, Miss Jennifer Flowers, God bless her. I'm telling you, she was great. I gotta get that book.
She's not. She's not a nun, so don't get too carried away.
I mean, I can't wait to get that book, Passion and Betrayal. Was that the name of it?
That's right.
Oh, because she was so nice. She was peachy keen, Mr. Bob Grant. Honest.
Peachy keen. That's an interesting phrase.
Hey, Mr. Bob Grant, I want to ask you, could you and Mr. J. Diamond make a record, a duet? I met her in Secaucus on a Saturday, and I used to sell 1 million and 2 million copies. You and Jay Diamond together.
Well, it's a waste of time to try to do anything with Jay because
he's a nice guy.
I didn't say he wasn't, except it's a waste of time. He's got too many complexes. Every time we're supposed to do something, he finds some reason he can't do it. I don't know. You know, the guy, hey.
He's a professional, Mr. Bob Grant, like you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, Mr. Bob Grant. God bless you.
I don't know. I don't know what's worse, a guy like him or all those AAA Socolas calling me names. I don't know. I got to think about it. I also know that when he was the governor of Arkansas and candidate Clinton, I was speaking negatively about him. I've never said anything positive about him. Why now are they so outraged? I've been calling him Slick Willie ever since I read that that's what he was called by people in Arkansas since he's been governor. Yeah. I've been calling him Slick Willie. Why now are they so sensitive to that? What has happened recently that makes them so desirous of silencing me?
I don't know. You know, let the rest of the world know he didn't get a majority of the vote in this country. We're not all stupid.
And even if he did, I'm not going to pretend that I admire someone, respect someone, when I don't. I'm not going to do that. And if that's the way we have to do it now, then where's the door? Bring in Diamond. Bring in somebody. Okay, thank you very much. A few words, Jay. Your audience misses you. Your audience misses you. Here's a guy, for some strange reason, decided to take he just got back from, you just came off of your yacht, didn't you, Jay?
Yeah, I came off of the yacht. Actually, I was playing stickball, and you see with Curtis on Sunday, you see these injuries that I've sustained. Nobody believes me, and you can't see the back spasms, but when I dove for that high chopper on the concrete, immediately when I was about 10 feet sailing through the air, I realized, hey, I forgot I'm going to have to land. That's when I thought of you. I said, if this is the end of me, if I'm going to fall and maybe hit my head and that'll be the end of it, I'm checking out before the comet hits and blows the whole world up. I said, the last thing I want emblazoned on my brain pan is the face of Bob Grant. That's how I want to go out. I'm sure everybody listening agrees with me.
Now, you got that playing stickball. You were playing stickball?
Yeah, with Curtis.
With Curtis. You know,
right. And Malzberg. What an athlete.
Hey, you know,
natural athlete.
Yeah, if you three guys ever grow up, it'll be no fun. But there was one guy that watched the game, watched what you did, and he can verify whether it's true or not. Hey, Phil Perot, come in here. Phil Perot, come in. You watched. What happened? Tell us how Jay Diamond.
I feel like the old days now. It's what I used to do before I had to work on a regular basis here, Bob. I had to come in and play games with you.
Yeah. Now what happened?
Unbelievable.
With Diamond?
The guy was great. The last time I saw a guy fly that way was a throwback in an Adagio team.
Now, he really hurt himself. He was playing stickball.
Unbelievable. The guy has a great competitive spirit. He went flying.
I don't think Diamond is too athletic, do you?
The guy's a natural athlete.
Who, Diamond?
Unbelievable.
They say he's kind of a pansy type.
Oh, wait, that's my street. I was born on Pansy Street in Brooklyn. The old timers remember they changed it to East 94th Street in Canarsie. But are you kidding? Ask Curtis. The guy hit a 500-foot home run.
Curtis?
Diamond.
Diamond.
With the hands all bandaged. He slid. He dove he forgot he was on concrete, so he dove after this high chopper. So the guy falls on the concrete, scrapes the palms of his hands away. You could see that. And he goes and buys some hydrogen peroxide. It was in the Jewish neighborhood, so they were open on Sunday. There's no blue laws. And he spilled hydrogen peroxide all over his hands, bandaged him up, and he went right up to the bat like the old-timers, like John McGraw, and he belted a fastball from Curtis over the fence.
So Diamond is a natural athlete.
Good man with the stick.
Phil,
just like you.
Well, I wonder how you mean that. Now, Phil,
wait till the commercial. I'll show you.
How do you feel about the fact that Sterling and Kay are out there with the club?
Oh, they're great guys. But, Bob, I remember the best team, of course, was the old days, and we used to hound you in the afternoons when I think you were on in afternoons at that time, too, and the Yanks followed you around. And then I had Frank Mezzeria, and I was Phil Perot, and who was the third guy? Bill Bianca.
That's right, Bill Bianca.
Oh, he became the NL president. I don't know what he's doing now, though.
I used to get the biggest kick out of it. That was when I was on the WMCA No Stars.
Second baseman.
I was a second baseman.
Stanky. I never liked him.
And John Sterling was the shortstop, the left-handed shortstop. Kenny Fairchild was the third baseman. And Phil, John Sterling wanted to play every position. Now, if there was a ball hit down to third base, John Sterling would come in front of Kenny Fairchild, pick it up, scoop it up, and throw it to Joe Bogart or Bert Knapp at first base. When the ball would be hit to my side of second baseman play, Sterling would come in front of me. Kenny and I sat there. We said, well, what the heck are we doing out here? We got Sterling playing all these...
Oh, but you didn't know he was doing you a big favor because they found out in advance that the other teams knew Grant was playing second base. The word was out in the radio community or even in the theatrical community. They go in with spikes up. They wanted to take you out. Sterling was doing you a favor by getting in front.
Well, Phil, those were great days, and I used to get a big kick out of you and Bill Bianca when you would do the... You used to say, holy cow, White! You used to write Bill White something wrong.
Ease up, Scooter. What should you call me? White has a frog in his throat.
What's that? White?
White has a frog in his throat because he hasn't been on the radio for about a week.
So, get Diamond back in here, Phil. Thank you. Jay,
a pleasure.
Jay, when are you going to return to the Jay Diamond Show?
Monday night.
By the way, Jay, the gang out at Concadoro, they said forget about it. Because I told them, I said, Jay's going to be on vacation. He'll definitely be out. They said, forget about it.
It's very funny. That's what Boris Rose said about you. Unless you come tonight. Because he's waiting down in Chinatown for you tonight.
I can't go tonight because I have a speaking engagement out with Pete Reynolds out in... You know, Jay, you sitting there like this, I think I'm going to go to the front office. I'm going to say, hey, let's put Diamond on the Bob Grant Show permanently. We'll make it a two-man show.
Well, that's a good idea. I could coast. I could be a glider.
Wait a minute. I'm going to do the gliding.
No.
Well, the Bob's going to glide.
Well, that used to be your denunciation of people. They're gliders. They're all gliders.
Most listened to.
I don't know if you heard about it. He was being interviewed by a fellow named Bob Costas, who I presume is a journalist, and a fellow named Mike Lupica, who you may know is a sports writer. And they were performing some sort of dental proctology on the Swachim, telling him how great he was and everything about sports. But when I happened to turn on the station, they were talking about hate radio and angry white males. And Bob Costas was very nice to Rush Limbaugh in saying how Rush Limbaugh wasn't really like you, Mr. Bob Grant, and so many others who were really purveyors of hate radio, because Rush Limbaugh was more so centrist, and that you weren't at all. And the Svachim kind of danced around it, but he derided you in no uncertain terms.
What do you mean by that? What did he say?
Well, he pointed out how he didn't agree with the majority of what you said, and he wasn't, let's say, in the way the Svachim usually backs down from a topic, he didn't overtly say that you were a no-good bum, but he did say that you were a purveyor of hate radio and that you were an example of that. I'm sure CNBC would have a copy of the tape of...
Oh, I'm not going to bother them for that. What do I have to watch that for? Your word is good enough. I mean, what if I did see the tape? Then what? Well,
it probably
what would that accomplish?
It would make you sick the way it made me sick. But
well, I don't want to get sick. No, it wouldn't make me. Why should it make me sick?
It was just frustrating to see because, all around the country, they're trying to build him up to be something because of the Supreme Court nomination and all that. And
they don't have to build him up. I mean, he has a certain stature. He has a certain following, and that's undeniable. I don't deny that. I happen to have a different view of the man, and I think my views of the man are well known. I will say this: he put up with it for many years. He never. He had, anytime he picked up the phone, anytime he wanted to, he could have picked up the phone and said he wanted equal time, and he chose not to do that. I have no, look, he's not the governor anymore, so I don't continue, I don't have a lifelong vendetta against the man.
I understand.
As far as Costas is concerned, I didn't know that Costas was an authority on conservatism. I didn't know centrist. What does that mean by centrist? What is centrist? Is centrist, when a person says you're conservative or a centrist, are they talking about your views or are they talking about the way you express those views? The fact of the matter is there are several views that I have which do not make me a person from the far right. Did you know that?
Yes.
As a matter of fact, Rush is far more consistent in his conservatism than I am. if you want to put it that way. Some people might say he's more doctrinaire. Some people, whatever you want to say, it's unimportant. The fact of the matter is, there are several issues that really I have to admit make me out of step with my fellow conservatives.
Like gun control and abortion.
Gun control, abortion, pornography. I mean, you see, I'm more of a libertarian. But a guy like Bob Costas wouldn't know that. Bob Costas picks up the newspaper, and he reads things, and he says, well, that must be true because I read in the newspaper. I'm going to attack Grant. It's fashionable. I'll curry favor with the Sfachim if I attack Grant. Bob Costas has it made. I mean, heck, I'm not going to argue with him. He's got it made in the shade. What a deal he's got. My gosh.
Yeah.
He has his career, I have mine. And if he has decided he wants to attack me, that's okay.
Well, in light of all this, can I salute the Sfachim?
Of course.
Mario, asciendeme. Tu sei proprio uno Sfachim.
Very good.
Have a good day, Mr. Grant.
Very good. You're not Toscano, are you?
No. I'm Napolitan.
Really? It didn't sound at all Napolitan. You know, if you'd have said that in Napolitan, I said the man. Tu sei proprio uno Sfachim. You see, you cut words. For example,
yes.
The correct words for I know would be conosco, right?
Right.
But the Napolitans say no conosco.
Right, they slur.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm too many generations American, and my mother-in-law always says I was a Scotch.
Well, you are very well educated. You are very erudite in any language. I thank you for the call, George.
Take care, sir. Bye-bye.
I think it's 2 years now, and you're solid as a rock.
Well,
wait.
I made a vow. The last time I went on the program, I made a vow. I said, I will not go on a diet again. I'll either keep it off. If I should put it back, then I deserve to croak as a fat slob.
Well, your weakness is the pastry. I remember that.
Right? Cannoli, yeah.
Yeah, the sfogliatelle.
Sfogliatelle.
Yeah,
pastry, ice cream.
You like that. You should have seen Curtis after we played stickball. Now, this was frightening. I had a back spasm, but we went into the diner. It wasn't the Rio Diner. It was the Del Rio Diner. I left a pair of glasses
the
there,
Del
by
Rio
the way.
Diner?
You know it in
Kings
Brooklyn?
Highway.
In Benson, yeah. In
Kings
Bensonhurst.
Highway.
That's where we were.
They wanted to name it after the Rio Diner in Woodbridge, but Teddy Lakakis wouldn't give them permission. He said there's only one Rio Diner, so they compromised and they call it the Del Rio Diner.
I never knew that. Well, we're sitting there. We go in. I had a bad back spasm after I hit that 600-foot home run, which
now
Curtis
it's
will
600
attest
foot.
to.
You know, before it was 500 foot.
Well, I think I underestimated before, but it was a massive clout. Anyway, they sit down, so Curtis has a big, I don't know whether it was a frap or a banana split, but it was like a boat enveloped in whipped cream, and he plowed through that thing lickety-split, maybe 3 or 4 minutes. He ate the whole thing and then ordered another one for seconds. Steve Malzberg sat down and he says, bring me flapjacks and waffles and French toast all on one plate. He puts a lot of syrup on it, butter. It's a miracle that his veins are unclogged, and he eats that. And it was like sitting down to eat with junkies. You know, the drug addicts, they eat sweets and everything.
And Malzberg is as thin as a rail.
Doesn't put on weight. I was watching myself. I was too much in pain to eat. I had some cream of turkey soup and some bread. But the most unbelievable thing is when you go any place with Kurt, this is why I felt you should have been there. We almost went out to Jersey to pick you up. You really would have shept nachas from Curtis. I said to Malzberg, I wish Bob were here, because everywhere you go with Curtis, people come up to him. People wanted Curtis's autograph. I couldn't sit there, couldn't have my soup, couldn't have my tea. He had to sign maybe 400 autographs.
That's why he goes around all the time. Got to have his ego fed all the time. You didn't know that? You didn't know that?
Well,
ask him if he'd go around without the silly beret and the red jacket.
Well, I didn't tell you the upshot of the story. So I said, hey, that sounds good. I asked him for a T-shirt and beret. So now I've got one. It's in the other room, and I'm going to put it on before I walk you downstairs.
You know what? You're going to give the Guardian Angels a bad name.
Hey, I'm pretty tough.
Hey, the Guardian Angels...
I can handle myself.
Yeah?
I can take care of myself.
The Guardian Angels do not have one cagazot in the organization. So if you walk around claiming to be a Guardian Angel, you're going to ruin that image.
Listen, I can throw down with the best of them. So you don't know that talk, throw down. I know all the street lingo now.
Can you believe
meeting Curtis every night.
Can you believe this guy who's led a sheltered life led a sheltered life.
Like a throwdown.
The Jewish version of Little Lord Fauntleroy. Now he's hanging around with Curtis Sliwa.
Right.
And he wants to be
I'm
a street guy.
I'm a street. That's right. I'm a street guy. Now, how would you like to be a street guy too? We'll go on the subway together. Well, you and I will patrol. We could go on. That would be a good patrol. We could advertise that you and I alone are going to patrol the L train some night.
You know, there'd be a lot of people who'd like to catch us alone on the L train.
I'm afraid you're right.
They'd get 2 for the price of one.
Oh, that's
right?
Yeah, that's right.
But I was, Curtis is a good-looking guy. I saw him with he had a suit, shirt, and tie about a week ago. And he's a distinguished-looking. I said, Curtis, why don't you dress like that more often? You know, what is it? Here he's 42 years old. He's still walking around with the beret and the windbreaker.
Listen, at 2 o'clock in the morning, he's sitting where you're sitting right now, and he doesn't take the beret off. He'll sit there and do the show for 4 hours with the beret on the whole 4 hours. Micah Chopley sees him. He could attest to that.
But he's incredible. He needs no sleep. He needs no sleep.
No, he doesn't have to. But it's amazing. I think the guy, here I say, all right, he doesn't sleep. I figure he drinks carrot juice and celery juice and garlic juice and beet juice. He eats brown rice and sprouts. He sits down with no sleep to a banana split the size of the Queen Mary. And then they have another one afterwards. It's not as though he's eating health food enabled. I need a lot of sleep. What about you? You don't sleep much.
You don't think so?
No, well, you get up early.
I'm an early riser, but I go to sleep early. I fold like the proverbial cheap camera. As a matter of fact, it's almost my bedtime right now. I have to go out to Queens with my good friend Pete Reynolds. Yeah. Otherwise, I'd be heading straight home to go to bed. No, I got to see Boris Rose, our good friend Boris Rose. Boris Rose, ladies and gentlemen, is one of the most legendary, incredible people in this business. And yet, Boris is a very modest man. He does not seek the publicity, but behind the scenes, this man is a giant.
He's been pulling the strings of radio for 50 years.
An absolute giant.
In fact, what I think we ought to do is if you go down tomorrow and meet Boris, I should have a camcorder to record the whole event. I'll take films of it, and we'll have it for posterity.
You know what I'd like to do if we do that? I'd like to show the tape to Danny Stiles.
Well, I think that...
What do you make that
think? Boris was telling me that he's talked to Danny the last couple of weeks.
Danny is at liberty.
Well, Boris is going to take care of that. Boris is working behind the scenes in Danny's
I think I'll call Warren Bodo.
I never had the pleasure.
Good friend of mine over at, I don't know what it is, 1560 on the dial. I think I'll call Warren and tell Warren he's missing a good bet by not having the legendary Danny Stiles on his program.
Hey, are we getting any new talent on the station here in the next...
This station?
Yeah.
New talent. You mean some new personnel?
Well, no, seriously, Cuomo's coming on here, right? That's what I...
Is his program going to be carried on this station?
Is it? I didn't know that.
I had a guy call a little while ago, say he was down in North Carolina over the weekend and watched television, and I was attacked by the Spachim. Is that true?
No, but I read in the papers he's coming on. I thought maybe it was here, but I don't know.
I don't know.
See, I'm out of touch, Bob. I've been out of touch all week. I haven't looked at the newspapers, anything. I listen to the radio, though. I listen to you.
Jay, I hate to tell you this, but there are people that have been telling me you've been out of touch for a long time. He laughs. Okay, he laughs. All right, shall we take a phone call together? Let's take a phone call together. Let's...
No, I'll listen. You take the call.
Come on.
I don't know anything about Bosnia.
We have Jim on the line from Paramus. Are you there, Jim?
Hi, Jim and Jay. Here's a good call to end the show on. Recently, I got into a discussion with some friends of mine who still think that Slick Willie is the greatest. So I came up with a few fun facts I'd like to share with you and other listeners who share the same opinion. You know, if Slick Willie is so great, then how come each of the 12 candidates he endorsed in the last 2 elections all lost, from governors to senators to congressmen, including Mario Cuomo, David Dinkins, and Flim Flam Florio? If Slick Willie is so great, then how come one man single-handedly is responsible for bringing his party down to the lowest it's been in 40 years? And if Slick Willie is so great, then how come he had to go on national TV recently and whine and convince the American people that he was relevant? And finally, if Slick Willie is so great, then how come he fluctuates between 29 and 50% in the polls? And this is not hate speech, Bob and Jay. These are facts.
Yeah, they are facts. Very good.
Okay.
All right.
It could be worse even. Maybe he's not so unique. Maybe his whole party is that way.
What are you doing there with your hands?
It's hot as hell in here. I don't know how you sat in here all day.
It's hot. The guy's fanning himself with a limp wrist. Okay.
I just came back from NAMBLA headquarters.
Okay, Greg from Pennsylvania.
They wanted me to bring back your picture.
You know, we can always. I can always count on Greg from Pennsylvania during this.
Oh, it's Greg.
Yes, good afternoon.
Formerly from Chatham.
This is the Bob and Jay Show.
Hey, I like that.
And good afternoon to both of you. Bob, I just wanted to reference a quick quote out of the New York Times on Saturday. Slick Willie, at his foreign policy best, when asked what he would say to Boris Yeltsin, he said that he would have Boris call the Serbs, tell them to quit it, and tell them to behave themselves. Here's the so-called President of the United States telling the head of the President of Russia to talk to the Serbs, these murderous terrorist thugs, as if they were 5-year-old children. Bob, it's pathetic. As you rightly say, he is a pusillanimous pipsqueak and a disgrace to our nation.
Well, on that note, Greg, I think it's a good. We conclude on a positive note.
4 massive hours.
Yeah. Okay, you want to join me in doing the sign-off?
I'd be honored to.
All right.
When do we start? What's my part?
And that slams the lid
on things for today. For those of you who didn't call it in today, try again tomorrow. Until then, this is Bob Grant,
reminding you,
your influence counts.
Use it. What are we, a couple of cheerleaders?
This is a...
I did not say, vintage Frank. I didn't know that. I didn't know that was mandatory, that it was incumbent upon me to say, vintage Frank each time.
Well,
and that's...
you don't have to say that.
That's his loss. It's not my loss.
You don't have to say that.
You know what probably happened. He got too much attention, too much notoriety, too much praise. It went to his head. You laugh. It's not funny. That happens.
Well,
that happens. He's a caller. He's one of the best callers I've ever had. He's intelligent. He's articulate. He's eloquent. And I do miss his calls. But on the other hand, I'm not going to go kissing his tush and beg him to call the program. He's a caller. He's not a host. He's not a star. He's a caller.
Well, the other guy who does it, who's a very good caller, and he doesn't get the publicity, or he doesn't have that certain speech point, the way he talks, is Les from Brooklyn, I think. He's very good. He's very articulate, very bright man.
I appreciate the call from you, Lou. Thank you.
If I had called you before and somehow I didn't get a response.
What do you mean called me before? What are you talking about?
I think I called you last week.
When?
I won't reiterate. Last week.
When did you call me?
About a week ago.
Oh, a week ago.
I don't remember the exact date.
You don't have to remember that, as long as it wasn't this week.
It wasn't this week. All right.
Okay.
But I really sincerely interested. I will not reiterate what I said unless you ask me to, regarding the counterfeiting of millions of dollars of...
What do you want me to say? What did you want me to say? What did you want me to say?
Well... my feeling was...
You want me to say that you presented yourself well?
No.
I would give you an A in delivery.
No.
A B+ in syntax.
No.
Well, what the heck do you want then?
My question to you was... I didn't ask you to rate me. My question to you at the time was, why is this not getting some play in the media? Is this not a significant...
All right, I'm going to take a poll of all the media directors, and I'm going to say, why is this not getting a play? I tell you why, pal, because there's a conspiracy of silence.
No, I'm not imbuing it with anything more than curiosity. I'm asking you a sincere question.
And I'm telling you sincerely, there's no plot to keep it off the front page of the newspaper.
I didn't mean to imply that. That wasn't my purpose.
Okay, thank you. Dear me, what the heck are we doing here? Why is this such an attraction to wackos, weirdos, and AAA Socolas? Why? Anybody have any idea? I think we'll devote a series of programs to that. I can see it listed in the paper. Bob Grant, wackos, weirdos, and Socolas.
It's unfortunate he's no longer calling. It was my understanding that he was very disappointed with you.
With me?
Oh, yeah, when you didn't stand up to Jesse and Al last November.
No, that isn't why he stopped calling.
Well, that's my understanding.
Why? Did he tell you?
Yes, he did.
He did not. You're making that up.
Well, I can just tell you what he had said.
Well, that's too damn bad. He's just a caller. Don't get carried away. Thank you, you fake phony fraud, making things up. I think Tom is on the borderline of being made persona non grata, not for that last call, but for his consistent, ugly anti-Semitism and his devious ways. Okay,
if we don't get the truth out now, and say, for instance, that maniac Perot gets into the race, it'll all just be so much whitewater under the bridge, and the Republicans will only have themselves to blame.
Well, he will be in the race, if for no other reason than to make mischief. There's a streak of nihilism in this man. He's a vicious, jealous man. He really is. The word vicious certainly fits. What about James Ring Adams' story on the obstructionists, how the Clinton administration is blocking the Whitewater inquiry on at least 3 fronts? Are you aware of that?
No, I did not read this. Where was this?
Torricelli and his main squeeze, Bianca Jagger.
Hey, I read it, and of course it's great as a regurgitant. But you know something? I never realized how ugly Bianca Jagger is.
Yeah, you noticed that too, huh?
Yeah, I mean, what a hideous looking. She looks like some old witch, for heaven's sake.
And then they talk about them on the boat down in the Caribbean. You wonder how they could be next to each other like that, because they're both hideous looking. But
well, he's no bargain, of course, but I tell you, he's better looking than she is.
Well, I tell you, the thing that concerned me the most, and the reason why I'm calling, is the people of New Jersey have to keep an eye on this guy, because he's an opportunist. He mentioned in the article how if Bill Bradley didn't run, he would run, and that still could be the case. But more importantly, if God forbid Christine Whitman gets her wish and she gets nominated as a vice presidential candidate, this guy wants to be the governor of the state of New Jersey worse than anything. And if we think that Flim Flam Florio was no bargain, he would make him look like an altar boy compared to Bob Torricelli.
I tell you one thing I like about Bob Torricelli.
You like something about Bob Torricelli?
Yeah. He'd never make it. He'd never make it. I'd love to see him be the candidate for governor. Love to see him be the candidate.
Well, he is so arrogant.
He'd get clobbered.
He is so arrogant that the people would find out in short order.
Absolutely.
That he is definitely not a man of the people. And if you just read the article, and I counsel everybody in Jersey to get a copy of it, if you read the article, you'll find how high and mighty he thinks he is and how he does not relate to the people of the state of New Jersey.
No, he is a small, putrid... he's a small, putrid man. He ought to be ashamed of himself for denouncing a couple of us who practice this type of radio, calling us enemies of democracy. We're practicing democracy. But this little twerp, he would like to silence us because we don't march in lockstep to his ultra-liberal left-wing Ortega-loving tune.
Well, maybe the Republicans in his district will wise up and put somebody up against him who will stand a chance to beat him, because I think now we're in a time where this guy can be beaten. And
well, he can be, but if you analyze the demographics in the 9th Congressional District, you'll see why a twerp like Torricelli wins.
Yeah, much to our loss. Thank you very much, Bob.
Thank you.
Bob.
Bianca Jagger is actually a United States citizen.
Now, I don't think she's a United States citizen. I never heard her getting citizenship. First of all, she's a Nicaraguan. Then she married this skinny British loudmouth who is worth $129 million on the hoof. Mick. Well, I understand, Mick, the reason that broke up was one morning Mick didn't have a joint, didn't have anything, and was clear-headed for once, looked at her, and said, My God, is that what she looks like? Get out of here. And this, I don't think I'm saying this because I'm a teetotaler, but what amazes me is how much of a cop's off-duty time seems to be spent in bars. Is that all there is in life? Go to a saloon and get bombed?
I guess so. That's and they're the first ones to pull you over when you come home from Christmas and you had a couple.
Well, that's their job. That's their job to pull you over if you're drunk. And you got no right being behind a wheel if you've had a drink, in my opinion.
I agree with you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir.
So Irish cousin. I don't know, dirty looking with a beard. Even Ed Koch said it. Type of guy you probably have a drink with, but he's dumb. He once said if he saw a flag burning, he'd throw his body over it. You know, a jerk that wants to sound like a hero. That's my take on him.
Your take isn't worth a thing. Isn't worth a thing, Rex. No. Isn't worth a thing. Not a thing. You're a bum. You can't even afford a set of good false teeth. How dare you talk about a great patriot like Bob Dornan that way? How dare you? And as far as inferring about his drinking, just so happens, I've never even seen Bob Dornan take a drink. Don't judge others by yourself, you bum.
To get to my main point, that anything Mark Green and Tom Duane are for or against, you know you're doing the right thing when you take the opposite point of view.
Absolutely.
Secondly, you know, those thugs called the Nation of Islam, which is really nothing but the cult of Islam. There is no such thing as a Nation of Islam. They say we take care of our own when they beat those black kids at the mall where they were put in charge to be guards there in Dallas. You know, what if it were white cops that beat up those black kids and humiliated them like that? They did nothing different than the prison guards that they're always complaining about, accusing the guards in prison of brutality. And that wasn't any worse than what they did to Rodney King. Rodney King wasn't humiliated like that. And I guess Rodney King should give all that money back that he won in that lawsuit. After all, the police were just disciplining him. And I guess the KKK, who took blacks out and beat them and hung them without trial or due process, I guess they were right then. You know, on the one hand, the blacks down there are saying, well, we want to take care of our own and discipline our own because the police aren't doing the job. And on the other hand, they say the police and the system are too tough with black criminals.
John, do you object to what the Nation of Islam guys did down there in that mall?
Absolutely. You know, the families of those black kids are suing. All of a sudden, those families want white man's law to protect them against their own. Didn't they accuse Bernie Goetz of vigilantism? Is this any different? No, these are hypocrites.
No, not really. It's not really any different, but subconsciously there are people like you, for example, who have a double standard. You get John, I got to tell you something. The mere fact that you call gets some people so aroused. There are some people who really want you proscribed, censored from the program. You know that.
Well, it's all the wrong type people, the type that...
I don't agree with a lot of things you say. I do agree with other things you say, but why should I make an exception? Why should John of Staten Island be not allowed when everybody else is allowed?
Well, if I'm getting liberals upset, and it's always the liberals who call for the silencing of people because they have no good argument of their own to refute what they say, and they know it, and that's why they just call for the silencing of people. Their arguments are specious and bankrupt, and no facts ever back up what they believe in.
John, I want to get back to the point of your call on these fellows down there in Texas who beat up these kids, stripped them, made them run a gauntlet, beat them with canes, I guess canes like they had in Singapore. Are you aware there's not really that much of a hue and cry over this? Are you aware of that?
Oh, well, that's what I'm saying. Of course not. There's a double standard. Where is the outcry of the black community that these poor, innocent children who may have had a tough life growing up were beaten by these so-called Nation of Islam thugs?
Well, you see, that's the point here. It isn't so much concern for the victim. It's who did the victimizing. Just like when Idi Amin was murdering all those people in Uganda. By all accounts, anywhere from 750,000 to 1.5 million people, and Uganda had a population at that time of about 16 million, so that's a big portion of the population. Nobody was complaining about Idi Amin. They were complaining about the government of South Africa, but they totally ignored Idi Amin. Now, why do you suppose they did? Because Idi Amin was not part of that white government in South Africa.
Well, of course, it's that, and of course, unless they can make political anti-white hate out of something, they're going to be silent. It's only when they think they can make whitey look bad that they open up their big, stupid mouths.
Well, I am surprised that there wasn't more of a response to what John is talking about. It just occurred to me, I wonder how many of you even know what he's talking about. Didn't really get that much publicity.
Of a million.
Well, I know.
Bob, it's one other thing I want to mention. I could never get you about a month ago. We were talking about being politically correct on the American campuses. When I was small, I grew up. They would show this movie on television. I think it was CBS Channel 2 here. It's no longer shown, and I'm very suspicious. This movie was made by MGM in 1940, and it was called Immortal Storm. It starred the guy who played the Wizard of Oz, Frank Morgan, as a Jewish professor. It took place in Germany. He was a Jewish professor at a university in Germany, and then it shows how he's beloved. He's a great professor, and then these stormtroopers. I think James Stewart was in it, and Dan Daly, I think I remember seeing him playing a stormtrooper. And the stormtroopers come into his class. They prevent him from teaching. People are only supposed to do certain things. They have to say certain things. Eventually, Frank Morgan is forced to resign his position as professor.
Why are you telling me the whole plot of the movie?
Oh, well, Bob, you know, they never show that movie on television anymore because it speaks to today. It's what's happening today with the politically correct movement.
Well, possibly. Maybe it was just I don't know. I wish I had Robert's energy. But anyway...
the White House and everything else. Greatest entertainer of all. Let me tell you something, and I'm telling you and your audience.
Oh.
Now listen to me. A&E tonight. You know, I have biographies. Loretta Lynn, the greatest entertainer of them all. Barbara Streisand wouldn't make a pimple on Loretta Lynn's rear end. How does that grab you?
On WABC, there's a guy, I don't know, I hate this. Right now, I just hate what I do. I just hate it. I must tell you. Physically, it's easy. Physically, there's no problem at all. But talking to the lowlifes, talking to the vermin that I'm forced to talk to, it does get me down. It really does. And I'm foolish enough to make this public confession. Put out an act, Grant. Be like everybody else. Pretend. Okay, I'll pretend. Hello, Phil. You're on WABC. What's on your mind?
Hey, how you doing? I forgot what I was supposed to say about.
That's what we're here for, to discuss how we're doing. How are you? How are you? This is Arthur Gutsy. How are you?
On a serious though, Bob, this is...
To that element, as the Spachim administration pandered. But remember, Mario Cuomo was not called the Prince of Pander for nothing. He's a schkiboos, an absolute schkiboos. Just thinking about him, why does he have to do this talk show now? Suddenly, I become so aware of him again. The Spachim, ladies and gentlemen. A Spachim. Okay, Abe,
Who are the Republicans going to put up against this creep?
Well, I don't know. That's in the 9th Congressional District. I don't know.
Well, I realize that. I'm just hoping that what happened with Senator Lautenberg, where candidate Haytaian sort of deflated in the last leg of the race.
He voted like a cheap camera. Let's tell it like it is.
Okay.
He voted like a cheap camera.
I didn't want to steal your very succinct phrase there, but that's exactly what he did.
He voted like a cheap camera. I'm sorry for that because I like Chuck personally. Chuck says Steve Cordemus told him to fold like a cheap camera. Well, whatever. You can't blame the other guys. You can't blame the other guys. You got to take the rap yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he lost. I didn't. I mean, he's not in the United States Senate. Well, in a way, I did lose because we would have had a good U.S. senator instead of two louses.
Well, and we all in the Pine Bush area, upstate New York, and
you live where?
The Pine Bush area.
Okay.
Yeah. Now there's a lot of UFO activity going on around here.
What do you mean UFO activity?
I mean, it's many people have seen UFOs and stuff.
Oh yeah, what's a UFO?
An unidentified flying object.
I see. Unidentified flying object. How do they know it's flying?
Because they see lights.
They see lights. Oh, my. Here we go. Is it that hot? It isn't that hot yet. It's too early in the summer to have your brains fried to the point. I don't want to talk about something that doesn't exist.
AARP possibly losing their tax exemption.
Oh, let's hope that happens. And if it does, I will forever be grateful to Senator Alan Simpson of Wyoming.
Yeah, I was just going to mention to you that Alan Simpson was leading the charge, and I saw a brief exchange between him and Horace Dietz, who is the head of AARP.
What an arrogant person he is.
Yeah.
Oh,
And he not only is he arrogant, he's an absolute liar. He got up there and he said that he didn't support the Gebhardt-Mitchell health care plan.
He didn't?
Yeah, that's what he said.
Listen, I tell you, I've seen Modern Maturity magazine, and if that wasn't support, I don't know what was.
Yeah, and Alan Simpson told him, he says, I have documents right here that say that you support it. And he says, well, I'd love to see them.
Maybe the guy's got Alzheimer's.
An agenda to be, to be perpetuated, not in the interests of justice. Just as with the O.J. Simpson trial. That is not about finding...
Well, now you're foraging out into something else.
All right, well, now...
why do people do that? They call this program, they're trying to make a point. Next thing you know, they're rambling all over the joint.
Well, okay, I'll stop here then. How's that?
As far as Kunstler is concerned, he's a swine. He is a vicious, low-life swine. I despise him and loathe him precisely for the reason you showed.
Right. Well,
to suggest that the murder of a policeman is a justifiable execution is totally reprehensible from anybody, especially a so-called officer of the court. The only thing I can say about William Kunstler is he makes no secret of his hatred for America. They weren't funny. They weren't funny at all. What's funny about Bud Abbott? Bud Abbott just hollering over and over, hollering. He was a mean person. Analyze Abbott and Costello, and you tell me they were really funny. They weren't funny. They weren't funny. This fellow Abbott, Bud Abbott, he was a mean, cantankerous louse, and it showed.
Well, because the timber industry has totally relentless in their attack on the public land.
Why are you anti-timber industry?
I'm not anti-timber industry. I just think that it's time that with 3%...
Well, what is your interest in this area? You live in the state of New Jersey. What connection do you have?
Because my 3-year-old daughter and my 9-month-old son should be able to recreate in the national forest.
Recreate? Do you talk that way all the time? Hey, kids, let's recreate. Let's go to the national forest. You need a spotted owl in order to make sure that you're having a good time?
But the spotted owl is an indicator species, and an indicator species shows what the total...
Do you work for some government agency?
No.
What do you do for a living?
I am a student at Rutgers University.
You are? No wonder. Thank you. Okay, here on WABC, Jimmy, hello.
Good afternoon, Mr. Grant.
No.
I have a flyer here. It says Art Defense Alert, and right at the top it says, do Rush Limbaugh, Bob Grant, and Ollie North speak for you?
Yeah, John from Staten Island. Yeah, hello, John.
Yes, Bob.
John, be careful. Don't talk about Carl. He's very sensitive these days.
Well, it doesn't take much to get them upset because they know they're so bankrupt. But for those of us who still know real history, we weren't fooled last week either when that racist America hater Carl pretended to be concerned about Jews and anti-Semitism in America by bringing up Ronald Reagan going to Bitburg. Now, what he was really doing was exposing his own anti-Semitism by actually using Jews to criticize a conservative, Ronald Reagan. You see, if Carl was really concerned about anti-Semitism, he would have vilified his heroes first, like Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton, who referred to Jews as diamond merchants, and the black Nazis who performed their own version of Kristallnacht in Crown Heights. Ronald Reagan, on the other hand, was the best friend Israel ever had, but Carl wouldn't know that because he listens to that other station, too, where they treat people like myself the way that Carl says he's being treated on WABC. And he talks about the hypocrisy on the part of we conservatives. You know, look at all these liberals and blacks who are outraged that congressional districts will no longer be formed based on race. And they're angry because they assume that any black would be elected from those districts. They're all assuming that they would all vote one way. So there's a racism on their part in one way. They're also assuming that the people in those districts would all think one way and would vote based on race only. That's racism number 2. Number 3, they're also assuming that whites will never vote for a minority, which now makes them racist in 3 ways as a result of this one ruling. These are the same people who say it's whites who are racist, yet there's been a number of black congressmen elected in mostly white districts in the United States. And as far as him trying to compare Richard Nixon with Bill Clinton, you know, Bob, that Bill Clinton has wriggled out of a whole series of scandals which would have destroyed other careers. One sex scandal was enough to force Gary Hart out of the presidential race in 1988.
What this fellow's talking about, ladies and gentlemen, is there was a radio program out of the West Coast, KIEB, George Putnam, the host, Ray Bream and other individuals, Chris Ruddy, the reporter for the Sunday Telegraph of London. They claim that a jury wants to indict Slick Willie and Mrs. Slick.
This is America's most listened.
Wackos and Whippos call the program.
I can verify.
What? That you're a wacko? You don't have to verify it. You've already established that. I mean, what kind of asinine thing? They're throwing the trial.
I'll tell you why. The government, Barbara Walters, Yoko Ono, Mark Chapman, and Stephen King are going to get hot on the skillet.
Oh, this is the guy that has the obsession about John Lennon's murder. Mark David Chapman, as you know, pleaded guilty, and he was sentenced to 25 years to life. And this guy keeps saying, why didn't they have a trial? This guy doesn't know the Constitution. The guy pleaded guilty. There was no need for a trial. This sick weirdo. I don't know why this program in particular is plagued by the sickos. On WABC, hello.
Hi, Bob.
Yes.
Bob, before I get to the women's movement, I'd like to say that that was a great point that your last newsbreaker made when he said that morality shows itself in voluntarily giving to charities and helping poor people, not having it forced out of your pockets to give to those who the liberal left and the socialists in this country think it should go to. And by the way, guess what decade there was more given to charities in than any other decade? The greedy 1980s, because America felt good about itself and its conservative president. But I wanted to say, Bob, on the women's liberation front, you know, Mother Teresa said that we should recognize that men and women are very different from one another, and the women should accept the way that God made them. Their job is to have babies and raise them, she said. And those who are trying to make men and women the same are doing a lot of damage. Now, I guess the politically correct left in this country will now say that Mother Teresa, who was their big hero, is getting senile in her old age. That's how they'll try to discredit her, because now she said something that they will, in all likelihood, disagree with. And this nonsense of rewriting the Bible to make it neutral. Well, Bob, God is referred to as the Father a number of times by guess who? Jesus. When he taught us the Lord's Prayer, the first line is, Our Father. Then when Jesus was on the cross, he said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. He didn't say, hey, Ma, forgive them, they know not what they do. But, you know, these politically correct Marxists and liberal cowards on Religion on the Line on Sunday choose to ignore these facts and go with today's revisionists. Then we have a lot of people surprised about the fact that Bob Packwood was sold out by those who support the women's issues, even though Bob Packwood was one of the biggest supporters of women's causes. Bob, these people don't realize who and what we're dealing with when it comes to the women's movement. They don't care how much the women's livers, I mean. They don't care how much Bob Packwood may have helped them. Bob Packwood is somebody who's in the Republican Party and who could one time vote for things that they don't agree with. So this is their chance to get rid of him. You know, the women's live movement isn't just with women's issues. They have a total and complete left-wing agenda. In fact, that's the main part of their agenda, and Bob Packwood is no Ted Kennedy or Paul Wellstone, and they'll dump him when they get a chance. But anyway, let this be a lesson for those who think they can work with the political left and compromise with them. You know, George Bush found that out when he went along with the liberal Democratic tax raise in 1990, thinking they would live up to their promise to cut spending, which they didn't, of course. And, by the way, which caused the recession. Then in 1992, in the campaign, the liberal Democrats blamed George Bush for breaking his promise not to raise taxes, and the recession started. But, so there's no compromise. By the way, they blamed both of those incidents on George Bush after they instigated them. So there's no compromise with the political left, whether they come from Democrats or the women's movement. And one final thought, Bob. Let's not be fooled by radical blacks who suddenly side with conservatives on an issue, if they do, it's for a selfish and ulterior motive. For instance, Barbara Jordan isn't concerned with immigration because she has America's best interest at heart. Barbara Jordan and a lot of blacks side with conservatives on the immigration question because they're afraid of what immigrants might do to blacks and only blacks. They don't have the foresight to realize that if one group does well in America, all of America does well. They're only interested in blacks. They're not interested in America or any other people in this country. That's why Barbara Jordan is concerned about immigration. Thanks, Bob.
All right, John of Staten Island on WABC.
Changing the subject, rather, let me ask you a question. Whatever happened to Lautenberg?
Oh, he's still there in the Senate. He's still there. He still smells the same way he always has. Yeah. He's still a loathsome, repulsive creature.
And D'Amato didn't follow through, did he?
No. Al's got other things to do. Hey, who the hell am I? I just helped Al get elected a couple of times. Outside of that, I'm of no consequence.
You swung the election, my friend.
But you know, I heard the following that Howard Stern has, or Amos, then maybe he might have done something.
No, you swung the election, Bob. You made the difference.
Bob, we were wondering why you hate blacks so much.
Oh, what a ridiculous question. What a ridiculous statement. Why did you tell our screener that...
Why do you hate black, and why do you wear brown shirts?
What a stupid sickola. What a sickola. What I get suspicious of is, are these people who go out of their way to tell you over and over again how much they hate Mark Furman? What are they trying to do? Who are they trying to impress? Is a black person going to be impressed because Ed Koch says, and I detest Mark Furman. He's a monster. Does that mean that black people are going to say, I like Ed Koch. He called Mark Furman a monster. He's a good man. No, Ed Koch degrades himself, not because he calls Furman those names, but because he constantly is doing it. I think he's overdoing it to flash his credentials, I'm a liberal, really.
I'm a liberal with sanity.
Right, you do it better than I do. Let's get Jay in here. Okay, thank you very much.
One was sold to AT&T and Dow Jones. And only recently did they tell us that it's not going to be on eventually. So most of us are upset because it's the only station, Italian-speaking station, that's on television. Every evening, and most of the times look forward to it. I'm sure most of your listeners look at it. And it's
most of my listeners, really?
A lot of your listeners. Lots of
I doubt it.
Do you?
Maybe some do, but I doubt that most or a lot.
Most people I know
really
listen to you and look at that station.
Okay, I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah. And we're trying. We did write to the FCC to try to stop this because. AT&T also owns Channel 13, and I guess they're trying to do a monopoly, and they're going to take it off the air.
AT&T does not own Channel 13.
That's what they told me.
Well, they told you wrong.
Did they?
Yes.
So now we're looking at, when I called the FCC, they told me. So now we wrote a letter to the FCC, and we're trying to get petitions to try to stop it so we can continue to see this attack.
Isn't that nice?
What's wrong with it?
I think you ought to be ashamed of yourself.
Why?
I thought you spoke English.
So why do I speak English? There's so many Spanish-speaking stations on television.
Well, does that make it right?
What's wrong with it?
Oh, get off. I don't want to waste time with a kaboon. Right here on WABC. What's wrong with it? What am I doing here anyway? I'll tell you what I'm doing. The Bob Grant Show. And we've got telephone numbers, ladies. Hey, John from Staten Island. What's on your mind, John?
Yeah, hi, Bob. Bob, the tugboat Annie of New York politics, Bella Abzug, was so indignant at President Bush for criticizing that phony fiasco women's lib conference in China. She said that George Bush should mind his own business. But why didn't she tell Jimmy Carter that? Ever since he was thrown out of office, he's done nothing but criticize every administration since. And he tried to inflict himself upon the political scene to repair the miserable image he created of himself when he was in the White House. And, of course, that politically correct phony, Ed Koch, defending her, said, there's nothing wrong with radicalism. But he didn't say that when it came to David Duke or Mark Furman. He blasted the hell out of them because they're considered radicals on the right. And, of course, it's chic to defend left-wing radicals today. Look at how the left-wing trash are falling all over themselves to support a murdering America hater, Abu Jamal. But Mark Furman is a devil and represents all white males in America. And, all these liberal Democrats like Cuomo and Charles Schumer and Carol Greitzer, they must have felt very self-conscious when Newt Gingrich, as far as I'm concerned, went easy on New York, exposing all the scandals that dragged this city down for the last 30 or 40 years. I mean, you have scandals constantly. We see in the papers every other week a scandal, a new one coming out of the school system. The custodian scandal, the meter maids caught more than once taking money from meters, the token booth clerks caught on camera stealing tokens, welfare, the prison system scandals, Kings County Hospital, where David Dinkins knew $365 million a year was being spent to pay for the health care of third worlders who were flying into that hospital and getting their care for free at the expense of the New York taxpayer, the pension scandals. No, Bob, as far as I'm concerned, they may try and criticize Newt Gingrich, but what Democrats hate the most is the truth. And that's what really gets them, and that's all we have to do is keep telling the truth about these people. They hate it when they're exposed. Thanks.
All right, John. All right. Hey, fine. Did you call to talk about him?
No, I called to talk about Pataki and how this guy is over in Europe spending all kinds of fundraising dollars, which are really taxpayers' dollars.
Really?
Only to woo the Italians and the Hungarians that he was not able to get the vote for him,
Oh, cut it out, you jerky little schmuck. And the guy calls says, how you doing? And then he launches into that, how you doing, how are you? I'll give you a how are you. Did you say you were a political refugee?
I believe so. I don't remember. My wife did everything.
Your wife did everything?
But listen, what I want to talk about is those guys, those vultures in Congress, they want to take away the money.
Yeah, that's great.
It's not great. You sit back and you think it's a laughing matter. You want to lean back and just go to the matter.
No, I'm tired of paying my taxes so that leeches like you can come into my country.
How dare you call me a leech?
You're a leech. You're a leech. You're a leech, pal. You're living off the American taxpayer. What right do you have to come to enter this country and right after you're here you're on welfare? Why do you come off that way?
Well, I have to work. I need the welfare to support my family. I have 3 kids. What do you want them to do?
Well, what do I want them to do?
You want them to
go back with you? Go back with you and the missus back to Russia where you came from. That's what I want you to do.
You send me the money, Bob. How about they give you my address? You send me the money, and I will go back to Russia.
Really?
I will go right back.
Yeah, you'd take a trip. You'd see your family. You'd see some people and say, "Hey, a guy gave me the ticket to come back, so I paid a visit. Now I'm going back to America."
Why does it bother you so much that I am on welfare?
I tell you why. Because you're taking tax dollars. The government doesn't have money. The government takes money from working Americans to transfer that money to you. I can't believe the nerve, the gall. Hey, listen, pal. Go suck on a food stamp, will you?
This is Talk Radio 77,
the
most listened to talk station in
They want
America.
to cut my welfare. They want to cut my welfare. I'll cut your welfare. It's 6 o'clock.
Bob, first of all, you are absolutely right about Alan Dershowitz. He's a slime ball. And you're also right about his mother. She would have made a good lawyer because she did all the talking. What a gas bag. But Bob, you were wrong about Anthony. He's not a straight shooter. The reason that so many whites thought that O.J. Simpson was guilty is because they went strictly by the evidence which shows overwhelmingly that he's guilty. The reason that there were so many blacks that said that O.J. Simpson is innocent is because they're going strictly by feelings, not by anything tangible. We always hear in this country that the lives of black people in America are cheap. Well, it's obvious to 72 or 77% of blacks in America that the lives of white people are cheap. O.J. Simpson is a big hero to many of them because he knocked off 2 honkies. And you talk about the fairness in our justice system. I wonder if Robert Feldman, the man who was attacked with his sons waiting at the bus stop in Jamaica, Queens, if Cuomo's anti-bias bill is going to be applied in this case, we won't even hear a thing about it. It was put into place just to get white people and to show that Mario is politically correct. And we always hear in this country also, Bob, that white people really don't know black people because we've never grown up amongst them. We didn't live in their neighborhoods. They make themselves sound like they're almost another species. Well, if blacks are that different from the rest of us, Bob, then I guess we have a right to be a little bit leery of them. And if they're that much different from us, then we must look just as different to them. So who are they to comment on anything that white people say or do? And if they're going to tell us, well, we have to know white people, it's easy for us to know them because they're the majority in the country. Well, blacks tell us, on the other hand, that blacks are the majority throughout the world. So whites must know blacks better than even blacks know whites, because we must run into blacks wherever we go throughout the world. And Bob, I'm urging all my fellow white citizens out there that if O.J. is found innocent, please remain calm. Thank you.
All right. John from Staten Island. Okay, on WABC, you should take the words of the great, successful Clement W. Stone. Says the most important words in the English language, 3 of them. Do it now. He repeats, do it now. He repeats again, do it now. Because life's clock is wound but once, and no man has the power to tell just where the hands will stop. At late or early hour, to lose one's wealth is sad indeed. To lose one's health is more. To lose one's soul is such a loss as no man can restore. The present only is our own. Live, love, toil with a will. Place no faith in tomorrow, for the clock may then be still. I hasten to add, some of you may have missed the announcement from Chief Willie Williams. He says, quote, today's verdict doesn't mean there's another murderer. Think about what that says. And yet we had Kitty, naive. Hey, look, let's face it. Most people are not born with their brains very well developed. They're throwbacks to a very primordial time, apparently. But to ask the question, well, now will they look for will they conduct an investigation to get the killer? They already got the killer, but the jury let him go. We cannot say that enough.
These people call in, and I'm listening to you as a fan, just flaming, just blowing the flames of racism across your radio waves, and I'm insulted by it.
Oh, cut it out, you fake, phony fraud, fanning the flames of racism. What are you talking about?
This woman who called there, she was talking to you, and you prodded her to say O.J. was not convicted because he was a brother. That may not have been what she wanted to say, but that's what you wanted her to say on your radio show.
I only wanted her to tell the truth. I only wanted her to say what was really on her mind, and Joan watered it down a little bit. That's the truth of the matter.
The truth
and for your information,
the truth
pal,
of the matter.
Oh, get off my phone, you slime bag. I have to laugh at these guys that sound, hey, Bob, how are you? And then they launch into that diatribe. I don't have to put up with that.
How much am I going to get?
Really? When, how old are you?
42.
Well, then you don't remember that, because they had fair housing laws in effect when you were just a little kid. Come on. If you were 80 years old, I'd listen.
And reality are two different things, and you know it. There are you can give me the names of neighborhoods.
Well, what I want to know is this: what does this have to do with the verdict? What does this?
Explain the genesis of the verdict.
In other words, what you're saying is,
if you let me speak, you'll understand.
In other words, what you're saying is.
But what I'm saying is, this verdict is a direct call to the people in this country, white and black, to change your hearts.
So we let a murderer go in order to have everybody know that Bill.
No. We let a murderer go because that's what we have allowed society to do.
Oh, cut it! I can't take it. Get off my phone. I can't take this. Can't take this garbage. Can't. What would you call the pathology here? The pathology of the way he views everything. And that is a classic illustration of why you're not going to get justice when the defendant is black and the victim is white and the jury is black. You won't get it. Mario Morello, wherever you are, bon anima, you were right. You were right. You were right. Maybe I should have let Bill on a little longer for those of you who are a little slow to get the message.
And you can't stand it. It didn't go the way you wanted it to. You can't stand it. The caller, Bill, was very right. He said you taught us well. Thank you.
Is your name really Scott? Is your name really Scott?
I didn't say Scott.
Is your name really Scott?
I did not use that name.
Is your name really Scott?
and listen to
That's
what's
really your name. Your name is not really Bruce. You're a fake, phony, sick person. With that, he hung up. Okay. He called yesterday claiming his name was Eric. He's a sick person.
I agree with you that they never tried to find the truth in this case. That's obvious. But even if they tried, they wouldn't have been able.
One jerk was so illiterate that Oprah allowed her husband to do most of the answering for her, even though he was not there.
They cannot answer a simple...
But in addition to their being illiterate, they are extremely smug and arrogant because they're going to get rich while the rest of us have to see this travesty continue to unfold. Thank you, Frank. Thank you for the call.
So, I don't know about...
Why do you suppose that an otherwise excellent reporter like Mike Wallace would be a party to this cover-up? Why? What does he have to gain by it?
I don't know. I'm not sure if Don Hewitt is still a producer of 60 Minutes.
He is.
Okay. Well, I recall stories about Don Hewitt back in during the New Hampshire primaries when the Jennifer Flowers story broke. And the story I heard was that Don Hewitt was sitting there at the Clintons' feet, coaching them on what to say, begging them to at least acknowledge that Clinton had the affair with Flowers, but it was only, a short encounter, and it was all over. And Clinton wouldn't even do that. He decided to lie and said he only caused pain in his marriage, but it wasn't with Jennifer Flowers. But that was quite a tour de force they set up for the happy couple up there in New Hampshire, and apparently it worked. He was able to go on Nightline, Mr. Clinton, shortly thereafter and talk about a woman he didn't sleep with and a draft he didn't dodge. 60 Minutes, they don't exactly have clean hands when it comes to the Clintons and their scandals.
Siphoned up to the somehow state officials of some variety.
State officials? State officials. Now, who would be a state official? A governor, a lieutenant governor, an attorney general of the state? Are you saying Attorney General Lundgren? What happened? What? Somebody paid him off? Paid him off to do what?
Maybe
to put on a disguise, pretend he was black, get in the jury, and vote to acquit? Get off my phone, Tom. You're ill. Tom is ill. I mean, he's reached a new height of lowness. That's I've taken calls from Tom over the years. And he's come up with these most convoluted, hey, Bob, this is short. Oh, I can't take it. Gary, would they please take me away, please? Make sure the ambulance doesn't blast the siren. I don't want people to notice. John from Staten Island, hello.
Hi, Bob. Bob, before I express some thoughts on the O.J. Simpson verdict, let me say that as a Catholic, I also was angry when, before his feet hit the tarmac at the airport, the Pope was telling us that we have an obligation to do more for the homeless and poor because we're a wealthy nation. Like we haven't been doing that all along. But for socialists like him, they're not happy until you're a financial wreck. He said the same thing the last time he was here. Let the Pope sell a couple of Rembrandts and Van Goghs and take a couple of thousand of the people he's so concerned about back to the Vatican with him, where within 6 months the Vatican will become a urinal, a graffiti blackboard, and a drug den. And then, maybe he won't be so ready to stand in judgment of us. But as far as O.J., the verdict goes, in that case, I hear a lot of blacks saying that whites are hypocrites for not accepting the verdict when we preached for years that we have the best system and we have to accept the verdicts. Well, Bob, I don't hear whites not accepting the verdict. They're unhappy about it. But what's wrong with calling up and expressing our anger about it? Isn't it better than the savagery that went on in Los Angeles? Did blacks accept the verdict in the first Rodney King trial? And up until the O.J. Trial, the system was unfair, according to most blacks in this country. But now, when they feel they can control the jury system by getting one racist black on the jury, they're worried on all the black racist radio stations that whites are going to call for changes in the system. And now, once again, Bob, when it's pretty well accepted that a black is guilty of something, we're supposed to start the healing process. Until, of course, enough time has elapsed and blacks can blame whites again for something. Then there won't be any talk of healing. We'll just never hear a never-ending foray of condemnation of whites in America as a whole. And you watch, Bob, when whites express their anger at the voting booth, it won't be called a white backlash like last November. It'll be labeled a racist white backlash and compared to riots. And finally, Bob, Kathy Lee Gifford came on TV last week and said, I want to let black people know that not all white people are like Mark Furman. Well, first of all, Bob, the only thing whites should be ashamed of is what they've done to themselves in our country to accommodate blacks. We have nothing to apologize for. Blacks should...
Why did she feel the need to make such a banal statement? I mean, why? I don't understand. I don't watch a program that is as supercilious, as ridiculous, as devoid of meaning as that program. But why should she have said that? Do you have any idea what prompted that?
That's what I'm wondering, Bob. I mean, look, when I see Oprah Winfrey and Sue Simmons or Carol Jenkins come on television and explain to the police and white people in this country that all blacks are not like Larry Davis and Colin Ferguson, then maybe I'll be able to stomach Kathy Lee Gifford's unnecessary, unasked for pandering. And one other thing, Bob.
Quickly.
How could those of us, including yourself, be so right when we said there's no way O.J. would be found guilty with 9 blacks on the jury? I thought white people in America didn't know blacks and they have no right to comment. Thanks, Bob.
All right, John of Staten Island here on WABC.
Well,
I reject what you're saying.
It doesn't allow the case to be brought up in L.A. It's the potential for the Justice
Let me get
Department.
out of here. What am I doing here? What am I doing here?
Because
All these authorities come out of nowhere. These authorities come out of nowhere and tell you that you can overturn a jury's verdict. I wish you could. You can't.
Oh, you didn't in Rodney King?
That was a different matter entirely. What they did was, see, you know, you think you're so smart, Rodney King. That was an entirely different matter. What they did was charge him with a violation, charge them, the 4 officers, with violating his civil rights. Guess what? Janarino said there's no civil rights violation, and they will not pursue any such prosecution. From Denver here.
It happened partial.
What are we saying here? What are we saying here? What are we saying here? That the white race and the black race of people are going to be, can only be judged by a third race? Or come on, what's going on here?
Well, I think the Orientals are very smart.
Well, nobody said they weren't.
And they would be.
Nobody said. What the heck are we going to do? Make sure that there's an Oriental on the scene to act as judge? I wouldn't want that. After all, it was an Oriental who screwed up on the bench. The guy that's opened the sushi bar out there in Venice, California. I can't take it. I can't take it. I know these people mean well, but they've come up with the most idiotic reactions to this sick jury. Most idiot. Can you imagine? Why don't we have Bob? What? Did you hear that? I should put that on a cassette and play that every night whenever I'm feeling depressed so that I can laugh myself to sleep. Put it on a cassette. I want to play it every night. Bob, you know what we ought to do is have Oriental juries. No whites, no blacks, just Orientals. Oh, so the black man is guilty. Oh, so the white man guilty. Come on, what is this? Al, you're on WABC. Hello.
Hey, how you doing there, Bob?
How am I doing? You got a lot of nerve asking that.
Hey, Bob,
How stupid. How you doing? What do you mean by... Wait a minute, stop. What do you mean, how you doing? What do you mean by that?
It just came out of my mouth.
Well, no, seriously. What does the phrase, how you doing, what does it mean?
It means I'm nervous right now.
Oh, okay. God bless you for being honest.
Sir.
Your honesty saved you.
Please.
I can tell you that as long as we have the Christy Whitmans in public office, as long as we have the Frank Lautenbergs in public office, we will not get anywhere. When she said, forget about my situation, when she said about Francis Lawrence, the president of Rutgers University, I find his words troubling. What the hell did she mean, troubling?
Right.
What did he say that was so awful? Why was he knocking himself out saying, oh, I would never read such a horrible book as The Bell Curve. I wouldn't read it. Here's an academician. Here's a man who's the president of the university. Here's a man who is supposed to say, read all the books, learn, inquire, think for yourself, make your judgments, and you will see that The Bell Curve is full of malarkey. No, he doesn't say that. He says, I wouldn't read such a horrible book. This feckless, putrid, cowardly academic creep was almost thrown out by the governor because she is a politician who only panders to segments of the population. And I say he's on borrowed time. Because I say that doesn't mean I'm urging it. No, I would not urge such a thing. But nobody can tell me what to think privately, what to hope privately, and what perhaps even to pray for privately. But what I say is, it seems to me that someone who is held in the contempt that the butcher of Brentwood is held has got to invite some kind of justice. So it didn't happen where it should have, in a courtroom. By the way, I want to ask, what was in the garment bag that slimeball lying skunk Robert Kardashian carried off? He knew who to call. That was all set up with Johnny Cockroach.
I'm afraid you're right.
And of course, Larry King has no scruples at all. Larry King will interview anybody in any fashion in order to bring in a rating. That's his only concern.
Larry King is an old lefty from Bensonhurst. Of course, I grew up in that neighborhood. So
of course he's a lefty. That I know, but he's, you can, isn't it possible to be a lefty with honor? I would like to think that there are some lefties who have honor.
I once was one, once.
But this guy has no honor. He has no scruples. He's slime. King is absolutely slime. No, they do what black I put up with. Yeah. That's why every black in the world would love to come here. Everybody. That's why, because it's such a lousy country. Michael. Ken, you're on WABC. Hello.
How you doing, Mr. Grant?
What's on your mind, Ken? It's a rather silly question to ask how I'm doing when I just get through with vermin like Michael, right?
Okay.
Okay, stall time is over. Ladies and gentlemen, stop stalling with the how you doing, how are you? It's not necessary.
What's his last name?
Bugliosi, Vincent.
Bugliosi, I totally disagree with him. He wouldn't be able to convict nobody.
Well, he convicted Charles Manson and a whole host of people, you jerk. Be able to convict nobody.
Very good to speak with you. Spoke with you last week.
You see why I don't like to waste time with people say, how you doing? This guy that was on just ahead of you, this Ken from Brooklyn.
Frankie sounds like, Bobby sounds like one of the jurors who said it don't mean nothing.
Yeah, that's right.
The probative evidence, of course, she couldn't pronounce probative, but it don't mean nothing.
Yeah,
that's the level.
Like Sheila Wood said, they all said, the domestic violence, the 9 calls to 911, they don't mean nothing.
It don't mean nothing. That's what let me get people who don't deserve their salary. That's Ted Koppel and Stone Phillips of Dateline NBC, who did 2 interviews. Stone Phillips did one with the male former Black Panther, softballs, marshmallows he threw, and it was disgusting.
I was expecting him any minute to say, would you like a high gloss on your shoes, sir?
Oh, would you like a high gloss on your shoes? How would you like your hair combed? I mean,
which cheek should I kiss?
Which cheek? Bend over. Which cheek should I kiss? Ted Koppel was disgusting with Roberta Woods. Again, softball questions. Sheila Wood, sorry. Yeah. But let me just quickly mention.
One's Perot, and we're paying bit by bit. This is the greatest payment of all. You heard those 2 callers, the guy that got off the boat from somewhere in the islands. You heard him.
I heard him.
You heard the guy right after him. Yep. They are gloating. Doesn't anybody realize what their message is? It's a very ugly, it's a very sinister, it's a very ominous message. Thank you very much. It was obvious that this swine was guilty of a double murder.
It wasn't obvious that the people beat the hell out of Rodney King? No,
well, okay, I'll tell you what, let's turn the... No, it wasn't really all that obvious. Are you trying to equate police officers arresting a drug-crazed motorist, speeding 100 miles an hour, and subduing a 250-pound thug? Are you trying to equate that with slashing someone's throat and stabbing someone to death? Are you equating?
No,
are you equating that?
I'm not, because I'm one of the people who felt Rodney King deserved it. But if you get caught on tape, which the cops did, then you should pay the consequences.
Well,
and I didn't hear the outrage.
Okay, I'm glad you didn't hear the outrage. This way you didn't have to hear outrage. Get off my phone, you jerk! What a jerk! I don't understand. You remember this well. You remember all this propaganda well. And you know, Medina, why I'm delighted that you're saying this is I want those dumb whites, those stupid, ignorant whites that don't understand what's going on in this country, that you folks are out there. You declared war on us, only we didn't know it.
We did not declare war because there would be no war.
Well, what the heck? Hey, listen, you're telling me that I want to keep you down. You ought to hate me. You ought to want to destroy me.
We have no hate in our heart. The only thing that we want is for us to be free from your control.
How are you under my... Hey, wait a minute,
the right to have the authority or the control.
Hold it. How do I control you?
When he was created to be free.
How do I...
We're free
You're not
agents.
free? Hey, wait a minute. You're not free?
Yes, we are free agents. But when there's another man with his negativity constantly there to try to manipulate and undermine...
Manipulate, eh?
That's right. And
okay, listen, unfortunately, Medina, I tell you what.
And you cannot change. This is your nature, and you never will change.
Medina, that's it. I wanted to hear Medina. I want you to hear Medina. I hope she calls all the succeeding programs. I want everybody to hear Medina. We ought to have that on recording. You folks have got to hear that. This is what they're teaching. This is what they teach in the Nation of Islam. That's why it's hopeless, it's useless. And you expect because Larry Farrakhan goes on with that little stooge, that little ass-kissing Larry King, that he's a nice guy? This is what they teach. Wake up!
And I hope to see Larry Doby throw the first ball out the World Series for Cleveland Indians.
Larry
Doby.
Oh, okay.
You know, Larry Doby
Boy, I tell you, you know what? You're a strange guy. Your mind just jumps around. You go from one non sequitur to another. All of a sudden, we're talking about Larry Doby throwing the first ball out.
We're talking about
Thank
black.
you, Tom. You're getting on my nerves. Let's try Jim on for size. Hello, Jim.
Yeah, hello, Mr. Grant. How you doing?
Goodbye. Let's try Joe on the line. Joe, hello. I tell you, saying how you doing is bad enough, but when it's done by guys who couldn't care less, that's inexcusable. Who are you talking about, pal?
Democracy in America.
What about Discovering America, pal?
No, I could be wrong.
You could be wrong, and you are, you jerk. Let's try Bill checking in. To call somebody a reverend, he would have to really be a man of the cloth, and this guy's not really a man of the cloth. You're getting on my nerves. Getting on my nerves. I don't think this guy's sincere anyway. Too kooky. Hey, you know what? I think I'll have a policy. Anybody who's too kooky doesn't get on. Guess what? I'd be talking to myself all day. Wait a minute. Even I wouldn't get on.